Welcome to episode 37 of ECTEL Bytes. The show is a production of the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, and I'm your host, Coretta Crooks-Charles, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. Thank you so much for joining us. We created this space to provide you with information about developments taking place in electronic communications by the Directorate and like-minded organizations. ECTEL has partnered with the Caribbean Telecommunications Union Network of Women, or the CTU NOW, to feature prominent women throughout the year who are undertaking impactful work in ICT. To kick off our special feature, our guest is Mrs. Michelle Grell Bereaux, the International Relations Advisor at Utilities Regulation and Competition Authority, URCA, in the Bahamas. Her appearance is also timely because last month, on March 8th, International Women's Day was observed. And on Thursday, April 23rd, that's tomorrow, there will be worldwide celebrations and observance of Girls in ICT Day. So welcome to ECTEL Bytes, Michelle. Is it okay if I call you Michelle?
It's quite okay, Caressa. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. So congratulations on your recent appointment to the International Telecommunication Union, that's ITU, Network of Women Advisory Board. Tell us, what is the role of the board?
Thank you very much, Coretta. And first, let me congratulate you on the excellent work you've been doing with the ECTEL Bytes podcast. I'm very happy to be here with you today. The ITUD Network of Women Advisory Board was established to help guide the direction of the network of women in the development sector at the ITU. It brings together representatives from the different regions around the world to help shape priorities, strengthen collaboration across regional now chapters, and to help translate good intentions into practical support for women to be able to meaningfully participate and lead in digital development spaces.
Okay, so you're from the Bahamas, you're presenting the Caribbean, but could you tell us about the constitution, where the other members from, how many persons are on the board?
So there are about 10 members in total, 2 members representing each of the ITU's regions. The other member from the Americas region is from Paraguay, Ms. Patricia Candia, and she and I will both be collaborating with the ECTEL Network of Women. I'll be representing the Caribbean and collaborating with the CTU in representing our region on the advisory board.
Okay, so what does this recognition mean to you personally and professionally, Michelle?
So this appointment means a great deal to me on several levels. Firstly, of course, I'm proud to represent the Caribbean while also contributing within the wider Americas region through the ECTEL framework, which was the channel for my nomination. On a personal level, it is very uplifting because I have myself benefited so much from mentorship, peer support, and exposure opportunities that were created by the ITUD Network of Women, as well as the ECTEL Network of Women. Professionally, I feel a deep sense of responsibility to ensure that the experiences and needs of women in our region are considered when these types of support systems and initiatives are being designed. As International Relations Advisor with URCA, I also see this as an opportunity to promote and encourage more Caribbean women to get involved in regional and international policy and decision-making forums so that we can have stronger representation of the realities of Caribbean small island developing states in these spaces. And finally, I can't go without mentioning that my appointment builds on a strong Caribbean legacy. And so I want to acknowledge Dr. Kim Maladieu in that regard. She was the former America's representative on the advisory board. She also served as vice chair of the advisory board. And she has been such an outstanding role model for leadership and mentorship and for creating programs that help empower women to thrive in these forums.
Indeed, Dr. Maladieu, she is a force to be reckoned with. So I'm happy you mentioned her. Okay. So, how do you see the board impacting women in ICT, especially across the Caribbean, in a very practical way?
So I see the advisory board having a practical impact by helping to create opportunities to empower women who are interested in influencing global ICT policy. So I would say, so last year, I would consider myself to be a new delegate participating in the process for the World Telecommunications Development Conference that took place in November. And a good example of how the ITUD network of women contributes is, they carried on an Empowering Women Leaders Mentorship Program ahead of WTDC 25 to prepare delegates for participating meaningfully in that process. And programs like that are important because they provide opportunities for new delegates to get practical guidance from more experienced ones. And it helps to build confidence that you would need to step into important decision-making spaces such as those.
Okay.
Participated, as I said, and I would say it prepared me. I actually chaired an ad hoc group on the resolution addressing the role of telecommunications and ICTs in disaster preparedness, early warning, etc. So there are opportunities for Caribbean women to benefit from such programs. But for us to benefit fully, we also need to build greater awareness of the opportunities that exist. I believe that I have a role to play in helping to raise that awareness and encouraging more women from our region to get involved.
Okay, so how important is it for Caribbean women to have a voice at the global ICT decision-making tables? Because I'm thinking there are not many of you there.
I think it's extremely important. And I say this while also recognizing that we already have some strong examples of Caribbean women serving in leadership roles internationally. I already mentioned Dr. Malawi, but we can also point to Dr. Maria Myers Hamilton in the IT radio communication sector, Cynthia Reddock Downs, who before her retirement had leadership roles in the IT telecommunications standardization sector, and Carol Roach from the Bahamas, who served as the multi-stakeholder, the chair of the MAG in the Internet Governance Forum, among others. Their efforts matter not only because of the contributions they make in those spaces, but also because they serve as role models for us, as well as for young girls and women who in the Caribbean, so that we can see women from our region leading in this way. It helps us to understand that this is a real and possible path for us, one where we can achieve great things, influence important decisions, and make a difference in our own communities and others like them. We also need many more women to get involved because there's so many different digital policy standards and governance spaces where important decisions are being made. When there are few of us, we spread ourselves thin. And I think that matters not because Caribbean men, for instance, cannot also represent the region well, don't get me wrong. Women being present helps to ensure that those conversations are informed by a broader set of lived experiences, and this could mean drawing greater attention to issues such as barriers to access and affordability, digital safety, and online harms, for example. I have a practical example of why representation matters. So last year at WTDC, I served as ECTEL spokesperson for an inter-American proposal led by the Bahamas, and which was informed by the ITU CTU TAT Smart Cities initiative. And at first, when we presented the proposal, delegates from other regions didn't really understand the need for it. But by us sharing evidence and real-life stories from the Caribbean, we were able to demonstrate how connectivity in vulnerable coastal and island communities needed to be better recognized in a development context. And this reinforced for me that representation is not just about being present, it's about helping to ensure that policy is shaped by the widest possible range of relevant perspectives.
Thanks for that, Michelle. I was going to ask you, what are some of the biggest barriers women and girls in the Caribbean still face in entering and advancing in the ICT sector?
Well, I think I would say that many women and many girls are either not confident enough or not encouraged early enough to see ICT as a space for them. And many women still face gaps in mentoring, training, leadership, opportunities, and support. A few years ago, I think it was the CARICOM Girls in ICT Partnership pointed to social norms, information gaps, and institutional barriers as major factors. And broader regional studies tell a similar story. We also have to recognize that technology is evolving very quickly. So the challenge is not only getting girls and women into ICT, but helping them to keep adapting, advancing, and leading as the sector changes. Artificial intelligence is a good example of that. It is now influencing everything we do and experience. And in the Caribbean, we are still trying to catch up with the skills, policy questions, and ethical issues that the technology raises. So this situation affects everyone, but it can affect women even more where there are already barriers around exposure, mentoring, confidence, access to opportunity, and the limited time and flexibility. We have to keep building our skills in a fast-changing digital environment.
Well said. So with the rapid growth of the digital economy, what opportunities do you see for women in the region to really thrive?
I actually think the opportunities are very significant, but we have to be intentional about helping women and girls access them. So the digital economy is no longer limited to traditional ICT jobs. It is creating opportunities across entrepreneurship, e-commerce, fintech, cybersecurity, data governance. I already mentioned AI, online education, content creation, and public service innovation. For Caribbean women and girls, that opens up opportunities on several levels, not just to thrive as professionals and entrepreneurs, but also as policymakers, regulators, researchers, and leaders helping to shape how digital transformation happens in our region, especially in emerging areas like AI and digital governance. These are spaces that are still evolving, which means women in the region have the chance to help shape them from the beginning.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So, what advice would you give to girls, young girls, and women across the Caribbean who are interested in ICT careers, but as you mentioned, who may be lacking the confidence to put that foot forward?
So my first piece of advice would be do not limit your idea of what an ICT career looks like. Sometimes when people hear ICT, they think only of coding, engineering, or cybersecurity. But the sector is much broader than that. There's room for technical roles, of course, but also if you enjoy other things, doing other things, there's room for if you have an interest in policy, regulation, research, communications, project management, and many other areas. Second, be curious and keep learning. Because technology is changing so quickly, no one ever really finishes learning in this field. You have to build a strong foundation, but also be willing to adapt, explore new tools, and keep developing your skills over time. I would also say do not be intimidated by spaces that may seem technical or unfamiliar at first. You do not have to know everything on day one. What matters is your willingness to learn, prepare, and grow. Seek out mentors and networks and opportunities early. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. Join programs, ask questions, attend events, and connect with women who are already working in these areas. And finally, I would say believe that your voice matters. So ICT is not only about technology itself, it is about people, communities, opportunity, and development. So if you care about solving problems, improving lives, or helping your country and region develop, then there's absolutely a place for you in this space.
Thanks for that. So, what role can organizations like URCA, ECTEL, and national regulators play in promoting greater gender inclusion in the sector?
So organizations like URCA, ECTEL, and regulators, governments have a major role to play because stronger gender inclusion, has to be actively nurtured. They can create opportunities for girls and women to gain exposure, mentoring, and leadership experience through internships, innovative employment programs. They can make sure that women within their own institutions are supported to participate in technical policy and international spaces. When institutions show that women belong in these roles, that helps to shape the wider culture of the sector. They can also do even more by mainstreaming gender perspectives into national ICT agendas. And by that, I mean making sure that when we design policies on connectivity, digital skills, online safety, or innovation, we ask from the outset whether women and girls will be able to benefit equally. What barriers are we facing, and what needs to change to make those policies more inclusive and equitable? These organizations can also help build the evidence base needed for more targeted action. One of the challenges we have in the Caribbean is that we have limited data in terms of the actual barriers that we are facing as women participating and influencing and leading in the sector. You know, there are broader regional studies, but sometimes as Caribbean countries, we don't always all participate in them. So I know that the CTU Network Women has proposed an initiative that they plan to be working on soon in terms of gathering that sort of evidence to enable us to move from anecdotal to empirical evidence so that we can have more targeted action to address the issues.
Yeah, that's really important. I remember a couple of years ago, we were about to host an activity for girls in ICT, and when we launched it, the men came for us. They're like, what are you talking about? There are lots of women in this. And I'm like, no, people say otherwise. So if you can indeed get, more statistics and proof of what it is that we're saying, then, the better it is for the points you just raised.
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that you benefited from mentorship. I was wondering give us some more about your mentorship journey and how can we create stronger support networks for women in ICT?
So the mentorship journey has been extremely important. And I've benefited directly from two different programs, one with that was developed by the ITUD and one that is developed by ECTEL. And it helped me build my confidence because they gave me a better understanding of how these regional and international processes actually work in practice. And also sharing experiences with delegates who have more experience. They would tell you what some of the things to look out for. They will give you advice on how to be well prepared and how to defend your arguments and so forth. But strong support networks require more than mentorship programs. So dedicated communities such as the Network of Women in ITU, the Network of Women in CTU, for example, extremely important because they create spaces where women can connect, access training, collaborate on policy issues, so actually work together on issues, and then working together on policy issues or policy agendas, you kind of like build confidence from learning from more experienced delegates and how to approach specific things. It helps you to build visibility, and these are also networks that just simply are there to, enable us to support one another. Sometimes it's just, a small encouragement, why don't you try chairing this group? Or, you did a good job when that intervention you made was a good one. These are little things that the network helps to engender in women in the community. And they also help to strengthen the pipeline by making role models more visible and creating opportunities for girls and young women to engage with women already working in the sector through workshops, network, and exposure. I would also say we need men as allies. Because creating a more inclusive environment cannot be the work of women alone. And I think that, many of our male counterparts in the Caribbean already live this. They're already supporting, the empowerment and development of women in the Caribbean ICT space.
Yes, that is true. Okay, so what would you say your vision is for women in ICT in the Caribbean over the next 5 to 10 years?
My vision, I would say, is for us to not only be using ICTs or being passive participants in the sector, but to be visibly and undoubtedly leading in it across skills development, innovation, policy, regulation, entrepreneurship, and for that progress to be reflected in tangible results. More girls choosing careers in ICT, more women in decision-making roles, and stronger evidence of our impact across the sector.
If there is one thing you could change today to accelerate gender equality in ICT, what would it be?
It's hard to choose one, but if I could change one thing, I think it would be to change the way girls see themselves in relation to ICT from a very early stage. If we can shift that early through education, awareness building, role models, exposure, encouragement, we can definitely transform the pipeline for the future of women in the sector.
Okay, I'm glad you said that from the very early age. Or just last year, we had a guest for Girls in ICT from Grenada, one of the commissioners from the NTRC, and that's what she said. She said her parents got her Rubik's Cube and these types of toys when she was little, not per se the dolls, not that anything is wrong with the dolls, but more of these types of toys at an early age, which sort of shaped her interest. So that's what you just said.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So any final words before we go into our rapid fire segment?
So I would say, and I'm just going to make a plug here. There's a major world conference taking place in the Bahamas in early June. So not too long from now, the World Telecommunications Policy Forum. And so I just want to take this opportunity to let all of the Caribbean women listening to this podcast know that this is a perfect opportunity. This conference is in the Caribbean to get involved, to attend, to participate, to influence the policy discussion on bridging the digital divide. That particular topic is looking at digital divide as it pertains to women and girls as one of the issues as it pertains to digital skills and connectivity. There's also the topic of green digital transformation, ICT, innovation and entrepreneurship, satellite connectivity, which is a big policy issue in the Caribbean right now. And there's one more I can't remember right now, but there are 5 really important policy issues for the Caribbean that will be discussed on a global stage taking place right in the Bahamas. So I encourage you to check out the conference website and to participate.
And you could simply find this by going to the International Telecommunication Union website and doing a search. And
So you can go to our website, WTPF26 Bahamas. And on that website, you will find information about where to stay, as well as there'll be a link to the IT website where you'll get more information on how to register, as well as more information about the topics that will be discussed at the forum itself.
Okay, thanks for that, Michelle, much appreciated. So this is the rapid fire segment. Don't overthink. So here we go. Tell us a woman who inspires you and why.
I would have to say my mother comes, first, she comes to me first. She was a single parent and, growing up, she always made us believe that anything was possible, that we could achieve anything that we wanted to achieve, regardless of how hard it may seem, that once we put our minds to it, once we worked hard, that we could achieve, our dreams. So I think my mother would be, that person.
Okay, awesome. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Career advice, best career advice. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself when new opportunities present itself to you, regardless of the circumstances. Always be willing to jump at it. At least it may not be something that you might be thinking of doing in the moment, but you always find these, provide opportunities for you to learn new things. And sometimes, those opportunities or those things that you learn are beneficial to you for another role that you might really want. So yeah, so don't limit yourself, I think would be the best career advice.
Okay, awesome. What's your power song before a big moment?
Oh my gosh. Um,
What song gets you going?
so the song I'm thinking about that came to mind immediately was Encore by Marshall Montano from the last
Oh, yeah,
album.
that's a good one.
That's a good one. So that one is a good one. I don't know. I'm a diehard soca fan. So yeah, sometimes I listen to soca music to pump me up.
Yes.
Be good.
Okay. All right. What is your go-to app for productivity?
My go-to app for
Yeah.
productivity. I use Outlook for almost everything. So in terms of time management, monitoring my tasks, yeah, I think Outlook would be my go-to app.
Okay. And then the last one habit that keeps you grounded. One habit.
Reading inspirational material. I want to say two habits. So I think reading inspirational material sometimes on a daily basis, these little nuggets that my mom sends them to me every day. Exercise and, taking time to just mentally detox, I think is also important. So yeah.
Hey, you did well. You didn't overthink too much. Thanks for participating in that one. Thanks for trusting me. Okay, so Michelle, thanks so much for being our guest on episode 37 of ECTEL Bytes, and we wish you all the very best with your appointment to the ITU Network of Women Advisory Board. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karato.
Okay. So I hope our conversation really helped to motivate our viewers, especially girls interested in ICT and even young women who are navigating this space. Michelle really dropped a lot of gems. So just rewind, listen back, and be inspired by what was said. In case you joined us late, our special guest was Mrs. Michelle Grell Bereaux, the International Relations Advisor at the Utilities Regulation and Competition Authority, URCA, right there in the Bahamas. If you have any questions at all, be sure to leave them in the comment section below and we'll be happy to respond. Apart from being on our Facebook page, this recording of ECTEL Bytes will also be on our YouTube channel, which is at ECTEL, and also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X at ECTEL Authority, and of course on our website at www.ectel.int. So please share with someone who may not be on social media. That's it for episode 37 of ECTEL Bytes. I'm your host, Caretta Cook-Strauss, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again virtually very soon. Take care.